I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Good morning and welcome to the Total Apex Media Morning Show. It is Thursday, February 6, 2025, and in true fashion, I have my boy Lawson Turner. Lawson Turner, it was an action-packed day in the NBA yesterday. We saw so many trades go down, hot studs being moved from one coast to another, teams solidifying their roster in preparation of making a run at that NBA Finals championship. Sending it right over to you, man. Let's go ahead and pop this off the right way. Let's jump right into what happened on the court before we get into what went on off the court.
Absolutely. So there was a lot of really fun and exciting games. If you want to start, the San Antonio Spurs beat the Atlanta Hawks 126 to 125 behind. A De'Aaron Fox double-double. I was surprised as to how efficient he was. I know yesterday during the betting show he was my full fade 100%. I thought he drew up a very difficult matchup with Dyson Daniels. However, still scored 24 points and dished out double-digit assists. He ended up having 13 assists in that game. Wemby was Wemby. Now, he only had one block, but once again, it's Wemby, still young, still going to be up and down. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers take down the Detroit Pistons off a Darius Garland logo 3 buzzer beater. That Cavs team, even without Donovan Mitchell, and once again, if you tapped into the betting show yesterday, I told you guys Evan Mobley is a must play. In the 35 minutes he played, he had 30 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 blocks. He was by far the difference maker and one of the best players on the court last night. Cade Cunningham still dropped 38 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, and 4 steals in his 38 minutes. We did say that Cade Cunningham's going to do his thing. Cade Cunningham's going to do his thing. They might not win. Now to go on to the next game, Giannis was a healthy scratch yesterday before tip-off, but it didn't matter. The Bucks still won convincingly 112 to 102 behind Damian Lillard's 29 points and 12 assists. Bobby Portis was, in my opinion, the player of that game, chipping in with 23 points and 17 rebounds. Now, he wasn't efficient, only shot 10 of 21 from the floor, but it's Bobby Portis who stepped up big with Giannis being out in that game.
Okay, so I have to ask you this. Do you see Bobby Portis stepping up in a big way with the fact that they just got rid of Chris Middleton? Is that the go-to guy now for the Milwaukee Bucks? Don't get me wrong. I know that they brought in Kyle Kuzma, but I think Bobby Portis is more of a solid play at this point, considering Kyle Kuzma's play performance. Chris Middleton and him would always battle for minutes anyway. Now that Chris Middleton's gone, is Bobby Portis the go-to for Milwaukee?
Well, in terms of being a go-to player, I mean, he for the entirety of this season and most of last season, he was their sixth man coming off the bench. He was the first man off the bench, and he's a really high energy guy who can play in big games, in big spots, in really. He is a, I don't know if you remember Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers from a couple years ago. Then he went to the Lakers. He was a high energy, high bunny guy, high character guy. And Bobby Portis has been that for the Milwaukee Bucks for the past 3 years, especially when you look back to when they won the championship. He was a really big piece of that team off the bench. So to answer your question, I think he can be a go-to guy, and he's 100% the sixth man coming off the bench. He's the first guy off, and he's a really nice, efficient player. He's a walking double-double off the bench, which it's really hard to find that production from someone who's a non-starter.
Absolutely.
Now to go to the next game, the Memphis Grizzlies did what the Memphis Grizzlies were going to do against the Toronto Raptors, and your man Triple J had a really strong game. In only 28 minutes, he had 32 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and was 10 for 16 from the floor, 4 for 5 from 3, and only missed 1 free throw on the night. Zach Edey pitched in a solid double-double with 13 points and 15 rebounds in just 25 minutes. Ja solid game as well in 25 minutes, 26 points. So you're getting your points per minute average higher up with that. The Miami Heat defeated the Philadelphia 76ers, who I thought of, and if you watched the betting show yesterday, me and Dusty, we had a little bit of a disagreement. I said he had position right, he had player wrong. Nikola Jovic was great in the win. In the 37 minutes, which he led the team in minutes played, he had 23 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1 block, and only missed 1 shot all night long. Tyrese Maxey still did his thing. He dropped 30 for I think it's the 4th or 5th straight game, but it wasn't enough as they fall to the Miami Heat. In my opinion, what was not really a shocker because it's two bad teams. The Washington Wizards, even if you want to call it an upset, they upset the Brooklyn Nets last night, 119 to 102. They could not miss from 20 for 43 from 3, which is 46.5% from 3, and they were 54% from the floor as an entirety.
That was the game, though, that we just
it was.
This is a turd bowl game anyway.
It's a go either way game.
Yeah.
Either one of these two teams are going to catch fire, and I thought that it turned out that yes, Washington record-wise is not very good. However, like they've got some young pieces like Corey Kispert and Jordan Poole, and Koulibaly is real solid. Now, to go to the last few games, the Minnesota Timberwolves beat your Chicago Bulls last night, behind Anthony Edwards going for 49 in 37 minutes.
I did call that, though. I said that if Ant Edwards comes out and puts up a game, Chicago ain't going to win it. But if Ant comes out and puts up, it happens every time we turn around. A stud comes in and puts up a dud. But Ant showed up, he showed out, and that is why Minnesota won that game.
He set the tone early with 14 of his 49 points in the first quarter, and then, had a solid 5 points in the 7 minutes in the second quarter, and then in the third just exploded for 20 points in the entirety of the third quarter. Naz Reid, another must play from yesterday's betting show, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. Even in the absence of Julius Randle, who's going to be out through the All-Star break with a shoulder injury, I really like Naz Reid off the bench. When Julius isn't playing, he's really their sixth man. He's the first guy off the bench. He can space the floor without Rudy Gobert. And I think that it was overall a good team performance outside of Ant's 49-point explosion. We saw the Denver Nuggets take care of business at home against the New Orleans Pelicans, 144 to 119.
Did Jokic have the triple-double?
I was just about to get to that. He was 2 rebounds short.
Oh, I almost had it on the nail, too, because I called that.
38 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. And once again, very efficient, 15 for 28 from the floor, and was plus 24 in that plus-minus category. In my Christian Braun, though, for your must-play, he had a really solid game in just under 30 minutes. He had 23 points and 9 rebounds. We saw Aaron Gordon. I don't know if he turned into Jokic, but he had 12 assists last night. And Michael Porter Jr. had a fantastic game with 39 points and 12.
Him too.
39 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. He was really efficient, shooting 16 for 23 from the floor and 5 of 9 from distance. Now,
so before we move on to the next game, I have to say this. We're going to see these teams like Denver, Minnesota, Memphis, Oklahoma City really start gelling and bringing that A game because they know what the Lakers have done.
Yeah, and
that's they are now, and we're going to get into it because they did another monstrous trade yesterday, and we're going to cover that. Don't worry, we got you. But
right.
Exactly, Marie. We're going to see some snakes coming out of the West.
Sneaky teams,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, because the Lakers went, they're
they made a really
the league on notice, dude.
They put a really nice move that we got that we're going to tap into here in a minute. Now we got two more games. Your Millie play as you called it yesterday. What'd you call it?
The
Something
risk it for the biscuit play.
Right. The Utah Jazz ended the game on a 20-6 run to upset the Golden State Warriors 131-128. Steph really turned it on in the fourth quarter. He finished the game with 32 points and 7 assists. Draymond Green with his triple single, as I joked about yesterday, in the 34 minutes. He had 7 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals. Now, he did shoot 2 for 7 from the floor, 0 for 4 from 3, but Draymond's not, a really scorer.
And he also got a tech.
It's Draymond Green. He's liable to get a tech in almost every game, which it's always funny when that kind of happens. I thought Brandon Podziemski had a really Pods had a really nice game in the 40 minutes he played. 29 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Now he did only shoot 30% from 3. He was 3 for 10, but
how did my Val play do? Jordan Clarkson? Did he put up a stud?
Actually, in the 33 minutes, he was arguably their best player. In the 33 minutes that he played, he dropped 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists. 10 for 19 from the floor, 5 of 8 from 3. That's really efficient. We saw Walker Kessler have 15 points and 18 rebounds. Isaiah Collier pitched in a double-double with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 11 assists.
So now I got to pause for the cause here, because what I need is my tech people on the back end to make a recording of Lawson admitting that Dusty hit the money.
We don't need to clip that. We're all good.
We're going to clip that, frame it, and that's going to be the
I'll
video.
sign it for you if you want.
I love it.
If it means that much to you, I'll sign it. We got 2 more games. We saw SGA dominate, the Suns. We kind of both expected that, but them winning 140-109 was kind of surprising. I thought that they'd pull away, but a 31-point win. Shea dropped 50 in only 34 minutes. He missed 1 free throw. He was 18 for 29 from the floor, made 3 of his 7 threes, and was really the difference in that game. Devin Booker, who you brought up yesterday as being kind of a wishy-washy. He only took 9 shots, but once again, I did say it was a difficult matchup. However, once again, they kind of got I got beat up and welted up on last night.
That was the game that, if I'm not mistaken, I'd take it at -99 if I could.
Yeah.
I mean,
I we're almost halfway there. We're almost halfway there.
I wasn't almost. So,
right.
If you guys listened, I did bump that up to, what was it, -19.5 or whatever it was.
Whatever Fugazi number because I want to say it was like 13, 14.5, and you were like, bury another 5 or 6 with it, and you'll be fine. Now for the super late night game, the Orlando Magic bumped out of their mini slope per se. As they defeated the Sacramento Kings in Zach LaVine's debut. I thought Zach LaVine played a solid game. He wasn't as efficient as he normally is. He was only 4 for 13, 13 points. Now, he was a -26 from the floor, but once again, I feel like he's really a pure scorer, and I think he'll find his role on this team. They still have Sabonis. DeMar DeRozan's a star. Now, for the Orlando Magic,
it's going to take time, though. It's going to take time to gel. It's
100% a time thing. Now, we've seen DeMar and Zach play together in Chicago, but it's still a mesh because, Domantas Sabonis at the center position, he's more of a baby version of Jokic, per se, as to where he handles the ball a lot more than your average center would. Now, for the Orlando Magic, Franz Wagner had a really solid game in the 27 minutes he put in. He scored 31 points, and Paulo Banchero broke out of his little mini slump. He had 23 points and 9 assists, 9 for 15 from the floor, and was a plus 25 on the floor. That wraps up all the NBA games. Now, we do have some news and trades to talk about. So
I'm going to let you handle this section, because the only trade I will touch on are a couple that I know of.
Yeah.
Obviously, we saw the Oklahoma City Thunder get involved and bring in another solid backup big man in Daniel Theis. We also saw some movements with, obviously we've touched base on the Kyle Kuzma and everything else, but I'm gonna let you go full screen because there were 2 monster trades yesterday, 2.
Yeah.
And I want you to not only discuss, the compensation and everything like that, but I want you to dive in a little bit on
Mhm.
what it means for each team
Yeah.
because I know the one trade that I'm leaning towards is, it's already an age team. Now they're bringing in, I call him baby Dennis Rodman. So, I mean, that's all there is to it. I
Right.
mean, he's not a power forward, but that's why we call him baby, but he's got that drama that follows him.
Yeah.
And now I want you to dive a little bit into it, what it means for each team and what so
Mhm.
the floor is yours, brother.
Awesome. So Jimmy Butler, that saga's finally semi done. He was traded from the Miami Heat to the Golden State Warriors. Now, for the Warriors, they give up, kind of nice depth pieces. Like Andrew Wiggins is a nice, solid wing defender who on any given night can be, a third or in some nights for this game set a second scoring option. They traded out Dennis Schroeder, who was a solid backup point guard to Steph. Kyle Anderson, and a protected pick. Dennis Schroeder ended up going to Utah for cap, and they are potentially in talks of trading him and/or buying him out. Kyle Anderson ended up going to Toronto as part of the multi-team trade to make all the money work, and for the people upstairs. Now, what does it mean for Golden State? You bring in another ball handler, another shot creator, because if you weren't watching the NBA up to this point, now I get it because football was in season. This was one of Steph's worst years statistically and efficiency wise. Now, without Steph, when Steph left the court, there wasn't like another shot generate someone that could create their own shot. Like they had a lot of nice key pieces, but they were more setup guys other than just give me the ball and I'm going to generate my own shot. Now, when you bring Jimmy Butler into the fold, I think they can make a push for a playing spot. However, this doesn't really change. It doesn't really change the outcome or outlook on their season. You bring in a high end player when motivated, and they did pay him. They gave him a 2-year, $161 million extension, which that's a lot for an aging player that does come with a little bit of drama. But we've seen Jimmy Butler. We've seen him go toe to toe with the likes of LeBron James in the finals, and it wasn't 2 years ago that he was arguably the best player in the playoffs, dragging the 8 seed in Miami Heat to the NBA Finals. They ended up losing in 5 games to the Denver Nuggets, but he was still one of the best players in the playoffs. Now, the New Orleans Pelicans, they traded away Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Raptors kind of gave up. I wouldn't call it a crazy haul. They gave up Bruce Brown, who's a really nice 3-and-D wing defender. Kelly Olynyk, he's more of an offensive big that can help with the lack of size there in New Orleans, and they also gave up a first and a second round pick, which for Toronto you get the best player in the deal. You pair him up with likes of R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly and Scotty Barnes, so you still have a really nice young core there in Toronto, and you still have a Jakob Poeltl, even though he's on the back half of his career, but he's still a solid center. Now, the trade that I loved the most, the Lakers, they finally got their big. They traded Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, 2031 unprotected first round pick, and a 2030 protected pick swap with the Charlotte Hornets for Mark Williams. I'm so excited for this pick because you bring in you fill a position of need that the Lakers needed desperately when they traded Anthony Davis. You bring in a young center. He's only 23 years old, a 7-foot 2-inch center. He's a good screen setter. He's a lob threat. He's a paint defender. He's a really good rebounder. He has a 9'9" wingspan, and even though he was on a bad Charlotte team, we saw him have a 2-week stretch in which he looked like one of the best centers in the NBA. He has a really nice float game in the around the free throw line and around the baseline as well. Now, the only problem is there's a little bit of an injury risk. He has gone through some injuries this season and in years in the past. However, he's only 23. this move to me, it's a win now. It's a win now move, along with a we're setting up for the future, because you bring in Luka, who's only 25. Mark Williams is 23 and kind of he's still a raw center, but what he is fundamentally, oh, there are so many teams that could use a center like him, and I cannot hammer this nail home any harder. It's the fact that he's only 23, and you give up, yes, you give up Dalton Knecht, who was a really nice piece. However, when you move AD, you need size, and I feel like he fills that void almost to a T. Like I said, lob threat that can go really nice with your Luka, LeBron. So your projected starting five, you got Luka, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, LeBron, and Mark Williams, and they have really nice solid wing defenders like Jared Vanderbilt, who's one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. You have a lot of nice backup pieces on this team. So I'm not saying Larry O'Brien trophy. However, I think this is a step in the right direction in which they can win now, and they're set up for in the future.
I love the Mark Williams because you have to remember where he's coming from as well. And I think part of his injuries was the fact that he was sort of the focal point. When he was on the court, they were trying to get the ball to him, but now he has not one, but two superstars to sort of alleviate that focus off of him. Right. And am I looking at this the wrong way when I say that I think that his injuries will subside with the fact that he's not getting double, triple teamed in the hole on a team that was really, they outside of Brandon Miller, who else did they have?
LaMelo Ball, but
yeah,
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
LaMelo Ball has also had a lot of injuries himself. Mm-hmm. So
right.
I think Mark Williams is a phenomenal pickup, and I may be over analyzing, but you look at what this Lakers team has done. You bring in probably one of the purest scorers in the game with Luka. Mm. You pair him with what people consider arguably the GOAT in LeBron James. And now you get rid of a 31-year-old defensive guru in Anthony Davis, and you bring in somebody that could be molded into who is 8 years younger, taller, and in my opinion, more physically built for that position in Mark Williams. Did the Lakers just put the Western Conference on notice?
I think so, 110%, based off of, even though I feel like LeBron's age really lies to us because, he's 40, he's the oldest player in the NBA by far. However, he
plays like a 32-year-old.
He's still a top 8 player. We just saw him against who did they play? They just beat the Clippers. They put belts to ass on them, and he scored 28 points and he only took 13 shots. He knows how to score in this league. So if LeBron, and I'm not saying to do this, but if LeBron were to just say, okay, Luka, this is your team, you're gonna have the ball in your hand 80% of the time, and LeBron can just be a pure scorer, he can easily, let's not get it twisted, he's averaging about 24 points per game. I wouldn't be surprised if when Luka's on the floor, if LeBron were to focus pure score, we could see him be a borderline still 30-point scorer at 40, which is crazy to think because, he's in year 22, he's 40. Now, the underlying piece that, we didn't mention is they still have a roster spot available, which means they can be aggressive in the buyout market. So they could go out and get somebody like a Dennis Schroeder if you were to be bought out by Utah, or somebody like that if they need any, if there's any roles that need filled. Like if you look at their updated roster, for point guard you have Luka Doncic, Gabe Vincent, who since coming back from injury in those 2 games against the Knicks and the Clippers, he hit 3 threes in back-to-back games. Then at your 2 guard, you have Austin Reeves, Shake Milton. For your small forward, you've got LeBron, Rui Hachimura. For your power forward spot, you've got, Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a 3-and-D guy, Jared Vanderbilt, who can guard almost 1 through 5, 1 through 4 for sure. Maxi Kleber, when he comes back from his foot injury, he's just another stretch big you can throw out there and really space the floor. And he's played with Luka for years, so he kind of knows, okay, if when Luka has the ball here on this spot of the court, I need to be here. I know what Luka's, looking for. And then for your center spot, Mark Williams, Jackson Hayes, who's a nice backup. You still have Christian Wood, who he hasn't played a lot, if any, this season that I can remember. He's still a solid, nice backup, really nice backup center. And they still have Markieff Morris, even though he's on the back end of his career, just a good vibes kind of guy.
So I think that I'm going to address the elephant in the room here. There's a lot of reports and a lot of rumors and a lot of hate going around that, and we've seen it. I mean, Tom Brady did it with the Patriots, said, hey, I want this guy,
Right.
like go get him now. And I know that wasn't the case with Luka, but I think that LeBron, there's the haters now that are saying that LeBron sort of orchestrated all of this behind the scenes, and
the GM, yeah.
Yes, and he wanted, the ultimate goal is to put a ring on his boy's finger. Not just to pad his, we all know what he's done in the finals. His record really isn't that good. But I mean, he's been there, seems like every other year for the last 20 years. And what does he have? 4 rings to show? 5 rings?
He's 4-6 in the finals, which once again, out of 22 years, you make it 10 times to the finals.
That's every other year.
And including 8 straight, which no one's done that since Russell Celtics.
Yeah.
To not to interrupt you, but yeah, continue with what you were saying.
Would it be shocking to see Bronny take that last roster spot?
Well, even with Bronny on the team, they still have a roster spot.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, with Bronny on, whether it be the main roster or the G League spot, they still have a roster spot that is just vacant right now, which could lead to, once again, a lot of these contending teams are really, really aggressive in the buyout market, depending upon, okay, we need another guard for depth, or we need just a versatile defender if one were to come available. Now, it all depends on who's going to be available, but having an extra roster spot, considering that the trade deadline is approaching us, there's still plenty of pieces or players that they potentially could add. And once again, just because the trade deadline is upon us doesn't mean that someone's not going to get bought out in a couple weeks, especially post All-Star.
All right, so let's address the question everybody wants to know.
Right.
Are the Lakers the team to beat in the West now?
No. Even with the addition of Luka and Mark Williams and all these really nice pieces, it's still OKC.
I thought that's where I was going. Just think that
it's still OKC from top to bottom. They're the number 1 seed in the West, and they've been doing it without Chet Holmgren, who is a walking almost mismatch, essentially. Like, you have a top 5 player in Shea. You had, they were the number 1 3-point shooting team last year, and then
they're almost there this year.
Right, and then they added Alex Caruso, who's just another wing feisty defender. You still have Lou Dort. They picked up Isaiah Hartenstein to help with their size. Now,
am I stupid for saying that the Lakers are not even top 3 in the West? I still believe that Oklahoma City, Memphis, and Denver are in a better position than them.
I mean, you can make an argument for any of those teams. The only thing with, none of these teams are flawless, other than maybe OKC. Maybe OKC. Denver's issue is when Jokic leaves the court, they kind of not fall apart, essentially. I think fall apart's a little bit too rough. However, there is a distinct difference when Jokic is on and off the court. I mean, we've seen this with all these all-time great players, where when they're on the court, their team is excellent, and when they leave the court, they kind of just standing around like, okay, is it your turn, my turn? Who's got the ball now? In terms of Memphis, they're a really, really solid, really good team. For me, I need to see this group in the playoffs before I'm anointing them, due to their age. Jaren Jackson might be the veteran on the team, and I don't even think, and I don't think he's 29 yet, which is really interesting.
A
For
lot of NBA news. We had a lot of NBA
yeah,
go down,
there was
so
there was a lot of action and movement last night, and it's awesome time.
it's awesome. It's awesome. All right, moving on to the college basketball world, we saw 7 of the top 25 teams in the nation battle it out. The team that I picked to sort of win it all this year, Tennessee downed 15th ranked Missouri 85-81. The boys in blue, Michigan, who are finally ranked 24th, they downed Oregon 80-76. The number 2 team in the country, Duke, destroyed Syracuse 83-54. The Memphis Tigers defeated Tulsa 83-71. And in an upset performance, Rutgers sent number 23 Illinois packing 73-82. Are you starting to believe, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on the college basketball, but are you starting to believe the hype with Tennessee now?
Oh, Tennessee, I don't think there's a shadow of a doubt. It's not they've been a solid program for the better part of the past 10 years. I'd say really the past 5 they've really started to, they've really started to set a precedent as to okay, this is a legit program and this is a legit team that needs to be taken serious when it comes to March Madness contention. I was a little bit hesitant to buy in them other than I was more hesitant than you were per se. However, after their performance last night, it really says something and is very telling to me when these college teams play really close games, because a lot of these college games, let's face it, they can end really quickly and then get out of hand. So I was really impressed with, even though it was a 4-point win, so it might not have been impressive. I was impressed with them, keeping their composure late.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And from the hardwood to the ice, go ahead with it, buddy. This is your forte. I know you love yourself some hockey. We had a small slate yesterday.
Yeah, there was only 3 games. We saw Chris Kreider scored the game-winning goal against the Boston Bruins last night. It's really interesting when you see these game-winning goals, especially shorthanded. We know shorthanded goals are really rare in the NHL, and to see that end up being the game-winning goal in the third period, it was awesome to see as the Rangers beat the Boston Bruins 3-2. The Edmonton Oilers, who once again, they have one of the best 1-2 punches in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in the NHL. They beat the Chicago Blackhawks 4-3 in overtime. Zach Hyman would score the game-winning goal off an assist by Connor McDavid. Now, for the last game, there was only 3-game slate, as mentioned. The Los Angeles Kings, they downed the Montreal Canadiens 6-3 in a lopsided win. Yeah. Really small slate, but still really entertaining in terms of the teams and the talent that was played yesterday. Now, I understand we were all dominated by basketball, as the majority of us were, because hockey is, out of the 4 major sports, I'd say that's the least desirable of the 4 to watch.
It's the number 4 sport.
Yeah, and once again, it's not a bad thing for the NHL. The only problem is if there's 4, someone's got to be 4th.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Real quick on the gaming news, as a reminder, a correction to yesterday. Unfortunately, the Terminator event did not start yesterday. It does go live today at 12 p.m. Eastern. On top of that, gamers, grab your controllers, get your systems fired up. It is double XP weekend. So make sure you guys tune in. For more news coming from the gaming world, but we really don't have a lot. Was there anything from the entertainment world that you have that's really stood out that's like, there it is?
Nothing to me, because I'm more a sports guy than entertainment. I was all wrapped up in all the NBA action. Now, I know you put out an article about some of the top 15 shows to watch on Netflix, so give us a top 3 if you can, just kind of a sneak peek as to if you haven't checked out the full 15, give us 3 that really popped out in your mind.
Obviously, coming in for me, number 1 being old school, Cobra Kai. February 13th. The rest of the final 6 episodes are dropping. Some of the other shows that really stood out for all of the anime fans, Blue Eye Samurai. It's sort of an anime show that goes back to the 1600s, Edo, Japan. It's just a really put together anime show. The other one that stood out to me the most when I was going through all of this, and it was a 6 Feet Under. It's got Dexter Morgan, Michael C. Hall, and it sort of follows along with, a family that is a funeral parlor, owns a funeral parlor in LA. And it sort of dives into a lot of good stuff. There's 62 episodes right on Netflix already. Beautiful, beautiful show. And then of course, Peaky Blinders. How can you go wrong with Peaky Blinders? I mean, it's sort of like a mob movie,
I,
mob show.
I still haven't seen it, but I've heard it is excellent. I'm waiting for just a right time to binge it. We've got
Yeah.
because I know it's been out for years, and I've heard that. Oh my God, Lawson, you got to watch it. It's awesome. And as Marie just mentioned, there was a dinosaur article posted yesterday, and it's a really interesting read based off of they found this big giant old dinosaur bird, which is really interesting.
Yeah, we're actually going to get into that now because
now in the
our
free for all?
resident, yeah,
right. I thought I
we're
could
gonna
sneak
do
in the
this in
backside of entertainment. However,
yeah,
since we're
you did. It's
trying
just sort
to
of more
sneak-
breaking
yeah.
news because this is actually in real life where scientists and researchers and archaeologists have discovered a fossil believed to be 68 million
Mhm.
years old in Antarctica. Now, here's the kicker on this, okay? It's a bird skull that they are comparing to that of a duck.
Mhm.
Now, that would actually make sense if you think about, but this was before the asteroid hit. So the
Right.
timeline is before the asteroid hit the Earth. And I think that it brings in a lot of like, I love when stuff like this happens because it sort of solidifies and reaffirms from a scientific evidentiary standpoint of what the earth was and what it is now.
Mhm.
Because it's sort of like it's another piece of the puzzle of tracing our lineage as humans,
Mhm.
because we all know that we weren't the superior species when Sharptooth ran the place. I mean, he was the big dog in the yard. And then we got the
Mhm.
Spinosaurus. I had to do that. But
Right.
what we are collecting is that this skull is from an era that was drastically different from today's. I'm not even going to attempt to say it. It's a Vegavis IE. It stood out as surprisingly modern. Like you said, it sort of looked like a duck,
Mhm.
but it's just a very interesting article. I mean, it is absolutely a great read. Make sure you guys go over to totalapexherald.com
Yeah.
and check it out. These kind of stories and the creativity that I get from, my writers is just baffling. I've said this before, but we have a phenomenal group of writers here at Total Apex Media. They just continually come in, deal with adversity, and they still pick themselves up by the bootstraps. And this is a prime example of that. It's just you don't see a lot of media companies covering something like this. And for one of our writers to think outside the box, like, wow, that's a really cool story.
Mhm.
It brings joy to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but there's a lot more going on in the world than what people care to notice. I mean, some people put Peaky Blinders on, no pun intended, Netflix, but there's so much going on in this world that people just sort of shut out.
Mhm.
I mean, we have totalapexliving.com where we have a phenomenal writer, Amy Oliver, that is constantly putting out tarot card reading because it's such a large following. We have a resident NASCAR racing guru in Miss Sarah Talker, who make sure you guys tune in live here Pay attention to the schedules because we will be broadcasting live. Major announcement, people. We will be shooting live from the granddaddy of them all, the Daytona 500, as we send Sarah Talker and Catherine Jones down there for live media coverage. It is going to be a blast, you guys. I am just totally proud of these people for what they've been able to accomplish. There's multiple racing outlets picking Sarah Talker up. We have Greg Simbeck, who constantly is covering the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Our gaming crew is absolutely killing it. This is a very, very proud moment for me. We are just in such a phenomenal, unique spot for such a young company. That, Lawson, how does it feel for you to be something that is just absolutely this is really industry breaking what we're doing? Like, a lot of people are like, no, it ain't. We did it too, Dad. No, you haven't.
It's really great to see like the growth, because I've been here less than a year, and just the opportunities and stuff that it's been great to see, even despite, some turnover and things of that nature, that everyone's, no one's ever sulked or said a bad eye or anything to me about anything from top to bottom. I've enjoyed it here. It's been awesome. It's been a blast. I know I mostly dabble in sports and stuff, but it's always good to go outside of your normal genre and go on like living or entertainment or any of the other 7 sites that we have, to where we can just kind of take a step back out of our own field and dabble into others.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that means the most to me is most of the people that have been here, it's not just a job. Okay. They consider Total Apex family. And then when I created this, that's what I wanted. I wanted writers, editors, managers, everybody to feel safe. And I think we've accomplished that.
Yeah.
I mean, to see the look on Sarah Talker's face when when my buddy Greg told her, you're going to Daytona, that was like a life goal for her. And we're able to put her in that driver's seat.
Yeah,
I absolutely, awesome. And there's more great stuff coming, you guys. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. We do have a rather short show today because there wasn't much action. It was a short NBA slate for real, short NHL slate, not a whole lot. I mean, when you do so good in reporting the news the day before, I mean, there's really not much more you can say because gaming news doesn't pop off as more frequently as the sports does. Got to give you your props, Lawson. You absolutely nailed the NBA trades. Again, make sure you guys tune in later today as we break down the NBA slate from a betting and fantasy side. Obviously, we must be doing something right because we're cashing checks out here. So, any final thoughts before we get up out of here, bub?
Nothing final for me. I'm just super excited for the show later this afternoon. Yes, it's a smaller NBA slate today with only 6 games, but when you really do a deep dive that we're going to be doing later, you can really find some good value in props and game lines and things of that nature.
Awesome. All right. So from Dusty and Lawson and the entire family from Total Apex Media, make sure that you guys. Actually, I got to do a station identification here real quick. I have to give a shout out. So one of our creative minds here is he does a little side thing called 64-bit Legends. Or is it 32-bit? What is
you had it right, 64.
Yeah, I was right, 64-bit. And the gentleman approached me and says, hey, I do this Rumble every year. And it's sort of like a video game thing, but we dress up and we do this and we do that and we do promos. And I didn't think nothing of it. And he was like, I want to put an ape in there for Total Apex. I'm like, cool, do it. I love it. Not even 2 days later,
do we get
Mike Saranko messages me and says, check this out. And I'm like, and we make fun of him because he's got this big burly voice, and then we see him dressed up as a nun in some of the videos on his Twitter page and stuff like that.
Don't
It's
disrespect
hilarious.
none, man.
Yeah, it's Nun Man. But Rex, the Total Apex ape, is coming to 64-bit Legends. Give big shout out to their whole crew as well. Total
Oh,
Apex,
dude, they're awesome.
as the CEO of the company, I am truly proud to be, behind these guys and part of the show. They've got WWE legend Cactus Jack, bang bang,
Bang!
coming in. So again, you guys, if you guys have not heard of Total Apex, if you don't know what we're doing, I encourage you guys to hit that like and subscribe. Follow us on social media, because we're slowly but surely turning this industry upside down. But for now, from all of us here at Total Apex, you guys have a phenomenal day. Stay safe. And remember, we will be back later today to help you win some cash. Peace.